have a break at the other windows. And I told Wade, when it gets better, I'll give him these.
Oh. Whoops. Was trying to kiss children.
I hear you. Let me grab an ad and put it up on Instagram Live or on my feed so people know we're live, and then they should start accumulating.
Mm-hmm. Do.
Leonard, what's up? You're always on time.
Mr. Leonard's all right. I got to meet him.
He's always very prompt. Butch Herb, what's up? Is it Herb or Herb?
Mr. Bush just got done cussing me.
Grace Williams.
How are you doing? Grace, how are you?
Got 10 people on so far. We'll let this accumulate. So we're not going to have just so everyone knows, we're not going to have Dr. Bradshaw on tonight because he's actually at Disney World with his family. And he can't be on. So we are definitely going to have him next week. And I'm going to be in Michigan at a Bassmaster tournament and filming for Mark Zona. So I'm going to be in a hotel again next weekend, and we'll bring Dr. Bradshaw on. And since I don't really have anything for, I don't have any video done with Tanner as homework, so we don't really have anything in the can. So it may just be a medical show next week.
It may be that. We might find something else in our conversation tonight.
We could do that. Hey, everybody. Miss Lois, Miss Gloria, Mr. Lumberjack, Mr. Hickman, Blazer, Hagen Lee. Welcome to the show. Thank you guys for joining. We're going to do a little advanced. I call it advanced NoNo.
It's definitely progress in the right direction. I'll give you that much.
I'll take it. I'll take that and jam all day long.
September. Yeah.
14. We'll just give it a few more minutes. Hope everyone's doing well. It's been hot here. We've had 90, 96 to it was 101 here today, and we have forest fires. Our entire state is burning down. And you guys have tornadoes and floods, and we have forest fires. That's our natural disaster.
And see, it's yesterday they said it was supposed to get to 93. I don't think it did. And that was the highest. It's not supposed to get above 88 for the rest of the week. So it's crazy how, it's super, super nice here right now. We've been getting rain at least every other day. I mean, I know that's not the stuff you expect here. The people down south saying how good it is, but I mean, it's really great right now.
We're on the flip side of that with all these fires and it's dry. We haven't had rain. We literally have not had a drop of rain in 2 months.
Wow.
We're in a drought for sure. Mr. Andy May, Carl Blackwell, Miss Caroline. How's it going, everybody? There's 20 people on. I think that probably
let's get this thing rolling.
Yep, get this thing started.
I'm super excited tonight because we got my paint project back up, so I'm so excited to show y'all not just the drill, but hopefully a little bit of insight into how the dogs see this and how we accidentally make things so convoluted and confused for them. First off, how did you feel about this drill this time out on your third attempt of video in this, Jake?
Well, I felt, honestly, when I set it up, I felt more like, okay, I'm building a challenge more than I am anything else. So I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to challenge Tanner. We went to a new environment at Prairie Rock Outfitters. There's lots of tall grass and, lots of distractions, and him being in a new spot, I think it was challenging for him. I did have a few comments on Instagram after I posted it that I started out too far back. And I think you validated that for me earlier today in saying that. And I would like to say the reason I started as far back as I did is because the first 2 drills I started so close, I felt like, well, he knows this drill now. I'm just going to back up and challenge him because I wanted him to go around those walls.
So that wasn't it's easy to armchair commentate from the sides, not knowing the entire context. Watching this, I felt exactly the same way you did, that when you set it up, you were trying to make sure you didn't make it so dummy proof or so black and white. You were trying to back up. And I don't think the distance here was your problem as much as, I mean, that looks like it may be 10 feet. It's a pretty small hurdle width wise. And that's what caused your struggle more than the proximity. It was just such a small target. And that's not a bad thing. I'm just pointing out why I think that you struggled with that concept. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I think, I didn't want to build it too long, and I felt like the longest log on the pile was about 8 feet long. And I felt like if I keep building it longer, then I'm going to get back to where I was with those rocks. So, I just kind of kept it. I just kind of kept it there again, thinking I'm going to challenge him more. I'm going to try to make this hard on him more than I'm going to try to make it easy on him. And I felt like, knowing Tanner, had we moved up to 10 yards from the logs, he would have nailed it, or I think he would have nailed it, and then I would have backed up and he would have kept doing it right, and I didn't want him to do it right.
Well, you definitely, like I said, I'm glad for teaching's sake and for everybody else to have a good edification on this. You did a very good job of setting up something that was, adequately challenging for y'all to be able to, when we think about training and setting things up, you train for success, you train for confusion, but then breakthrough. And you could have potentially put yourself in a situation right here where you may not have had success without moving up a little bit, but that's okay. Like I said, we need to see some productive struggle, and we did. So unless you got anything else to put in, I'd love to start going through this video just a little bit.
I want to
dissect it.
I want to address a question that one of the viewers had on Instagram the other day. They sent me a direct message privately and said, what exactly does this drill do? And the comment behind it was, I don't really care if my dog goes around a log, because my dog is a gun dog, a hunting dog, and I don't really care if he goes around a log as long as he picks the bird up and bring it back. And my answer to him was, it's just a discipline lining drill, and there's lots of disciplinary innuendos in this drill that I felt like it's not about going over the log as much as it is guiding your dog through, the right direction and sending him through a keyhole. What if there was a barbed wire fence on one side, or a property line, or some other hazard, or water, or whatever it is? I felt like, I don't know if it was right or not, but that was my response to him.
Well, I think the other thing to really harp on here and not forget is, don't miss the forest for the trees. And what I mean by that is, this is about teaching a dog to take a straight line and challenge what's in front of them. But more importantly, this is about shaping a mindset towards positive change when you don't do the right thing. What dogs that are unschooled or unfamiliar with how we want them to modify their behavior, they do the wrong thing, and we stop them or we correct them, and then they end up doing the same wrong thing in a more rapid or harried or confused fashion. They, instead of modifying and doing something different, they just keep doing the wrong thing faster. And this is about establishing a communication aspect that says, okay, you know, essentially a dog that's in a proper mind state here never does the same thing wrong twice. They never repeat that line. Okay, that's not the right place to be. Let me try something else. And they continue to feel their way through the process and never repeats the same wrong behavior until they find the right one. It's like cracking a safe. You know, you keep finding your way to the combination until you find the right one and get through it. So that's what we're looking for here. Almost like a maze in a sense, you know, that we stop, they hit a wall. No, that's not right. Okay, we hit another wall. That's not right. Okay, I need to take a different route. Now, of course, in a perfect world, that's not always how things go. But the ultimate aspect of this drill is not just teaching dogs to jump something. And if you don't care that they're going to jump something because you're a hunter, that's great. It's teaching them how to understand how to modify their behavior in an appropriate way. So as again, how we always say, you know, good dog training breaks down to the basic concept of having a positive behavior change in a pressure or perceived pressure situation. Positive behavior change. That's what we're looking for here. Make sense?
Totally.
Okay, and that's what Joe Hunter gets hung up on sometimes. Why are you so enthralled with this dog jumping this log? What difference does it make? Well, it's not the fact that he's jumping the log as much as it is he's understanding how to change his behavior to give you what you're looking for. It's increasing your vocabulary, so to speak.
When we first started doing down the shore blinds, I remember a guy sending me and they always send them in direct messages, so they're private because they don't know. I think it's because they don't really know if they're right or not, but they like to give advice. And the guy was offended. He's like, why on earth would you not want your dog to run around the side of the pond to pick up a bird? Because it's much quicker and much more efficient. And so, you know, like you said, the Joe Hunters out there, and I'm not criticizing them more than I am, you know, just we all know that.
Straight, you were them, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Until you understood what you could ask for, you were exactly, you know, what difference does it make? And the answer is, if you don't care about it, it doesn't make any difference at all. But we're trying to make learning positive and productive for dogs rather than confusing and overwhelming.
And I think one of my answers to that guy too was, man, I just want to get the most out of my dogs. You always hear professional trainers, particularly at a high level, say, you know, and I remember this from 20 years ago, why not get the most potential you can out of your dog when the potential's there? Why wouldn't you?
I can't disagree with you a bit.
All right, let me just play this video.
This will be
Super.
our third attempt at
NoNo Drill. And taking Steven's advice, what we've done is
tiny echo there, or delay or something.
Is there a delay?
half a dozen bumpers.
It's just on your audio. I mean, the video is playing fine.
Okay. Could be. I'm going to turn my phone Wi-Fi off. Let's see if that does anything.
What we've done is we built a log jump, and we
Still delayed.
half a dozen
Yes,
bumpers on
it might even be worse because
the truck and it's-
it's worse than an echo chamber. If nothing else, you can kill the audio.
This will be our third attempt at NoNo Drill. And taking Steven's advice,
Now is the
what we've
light.
done is we built a log jump, and we put a half a dozen bumpers on the other side of it.
As you go.
Truck and his crate and his gunner kennel. He has no idea what's going on yet. Very like out there, so we're out in this natural environment. There's a lot of tall grass around. We found an area that had some short dead grass, so that at least we could see the setup. Now I'm going to have our media guy, Brandon. I'm going to pause it one second because on my master screen, it's like 30 seconds off.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why. Is that where you are too?
I think that's pretty close to what we're hearing as well.
I'm just going to kill the audio. Well, we need it on the and Fiend stand on the tail. Hang on. Let me try this again. Sorry, folks. We're going to get.
So while Jake's working, one of the things that I'm so excited about here is I'm going to try to help y'all understand. You heard me talk about placing walls so much and how how dogs see walls in their minds. And I'm going to hopefully, as we go through this, diagram some of the walls that Tanner's seeing and help y'all understand the way that he's seeing it. You ready to try again, Jake?
This will be our third attempt at NoNo Drill. And taking Stephen's
much better.
What we've done is we built a log jump, and we put
much better
bumpers on the other side of it.
One of the things that I want you to get away from here, Jake, in the long run, is having the reward so close behind your drill. You know, this is going to be something ultimately when you run your blinds that you're gonna jump en route, not just jump and then find the reward. So we're gonna have to start moving that pile a little bit farther away as you get more advanced.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Beautiful.
Horse flies they're actually the deer flies were horrible.
That wasn't a bad initial line at all. Okay, now stop right there. Just hit pause. Okay, so you hit the whistle. He had a small, tiny loop. Now, if I remember right, we saw some unproductive behavior. But let's just call the wall that you built something like this. Can y'all see that on the screen? Is it up? Okay, so there is a mental wall. Now, where you put this wall has a huge benefit. Do you see how where you stopped him was before the obstacle? Typically, what I like to do is I'll try to, if they go to avoid, I'll wait till they get even with it and build the wall more like this, farther behind it. Rather, that's not going to work with the flip, but y'all understand what I'm saying here. As far as the closer you build the wall to you, the bigger it is. And so you take this same size wall and you put it right here, and look how much it takes away from his, you know, how much more he has to negotiate. Mm-hmm. So where you build the wall in proximity to him makes a difference. So usually when they miss it the first time, if you go back and look at your video screen, you stopped him before he got to the obstacle. I normally stop them when they get around it or right on the edge and try to build the wall more toward the side of the obstacle or even deep of it to start with, rather than in front of it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And my thought, just so everyone else can relate to me, whoever doesn't know what they're doing, my thought was I let him run his initial line until he was off. He was well off that line, and then I stopped him.
Yeah, so, and that was the thing too. You had a pretty good initial line, and essentially what we're saying there. Let me see if I can go to doing this really quick. You know, your initial line looks something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying I'm stopping him when he deviates off, and I'm not saying that's wrong. All I'm saying is let him deviate a little bit farther so that he's outside the log. When I talk about outside the log, I mean their mind is outside their log, their body is outside the log. Let him get a little bit more outside of it, and have that wall. If the wall was built over here deeper, that still gives him room to think and negotiate with this obstacle. You know, what you don't want to happen here is him to get some kind of negative association, and this is what often happens, and you start covering up parts of the log to start with. So when you wait till he's past it or just even with it and build your log, build your wall, it makes things a little bit more black and white.
Clear. Yeah, I could see that. I felt like, and again, I felt like, well, he was going, and then he saw the log, and he made the decision to go around the right side of it. So I felt like he knew he was going to go around it, so I stopped him. And again,
you made a very good observation right there, Jake. He was going and then made the decision. He did not make that decision right off the line. He was running, and that factor influenced him. Now, those things will change over time. You'll start catching more and more, realizing when he makes a decision from the line to avoid it. But you are exactly right. On that first end, he was running right at the log, and then the log had the effect to push him to the right.
Okay. What was that all about? When I whistled him back and said, here, he went over there and sniffed something by that grass. Is that him blowing him off?
That's exactly what it was. And now, did you tell him, when you sat him, did you tell him no?
No, and I was just going to say that. I didn't say no until like the second or third whistle because I forgot.
Yep.
Here.
He's dealing with some sandburrs too.
Well, the other thing that could be sandspurs, but it looks a lot like he might have been thinking about hunting, thinking about doing Tanner things, thinking about, if you look where he ran to, he ran either to where there might be some cover, or the next thing he may have been doing is running to the highest available thing to stop and piss on and mark.
Mm-hmm.
So either one of those were in play right there.
Mr. Gums, the line to the log, I would say, is about 35 yards. Just to answer that question.
All right. Let's keep on rolling. Now watch, hit pause. You see right there, this time Tanner has made up his mind. He's going right when you sent him. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's
now he's aware that the log's there, and he's going, wait a minute now.
So the two things I thought of, Stephen, and again, I don't know if it's right or not, but this is what was going through my head was, okay, he made the decision when he left the line that he was going to go around it. And he also did something different than the first one. So I was kind of stuck in my head going, okay, well, I don't know, I don't know what the consequences are, because he made that decision before he left the line, but he also did something different than the first line.
Okay,
so,
and I don't remember what he did, and I'm glad that I didn't want to know. But if you think about it, when he comes back and looks at this obstacle, and we're saying, look, in our mind, we're saying, look at the log and jump the log. What I'm saying is when he comes back, he's going, there may be a log there, but there is a wall right here. And I need to choose left or right of that wall. Does that make sense? So when you said back this time, what's he doing?
He's going to go run around that wall.
He's choosing like, right of the wall. I'm assuming. Let's go ahead and hit play. Let's see where he goes.
That's what I thought.
Here.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so whistle right there. So hold on, let me see where you're at. So
where are you at,
sir?
I feel like he's at you may be ahead of me because he's back at the line now on my video.
All right, where he is the second send, and you stopped him, and he is halfway to the log farther right. Hold on, I'll show you where he is.
You guys are delayed relative to what I'm seeing.
This is what I'm seeing. That was your second whistle sit.
Okay. Ah, dude, why did I do that? Oh my goodness. Now they're all messed up. No, hold on. I'm so sorry.
I know it's frustrating, but this is what we're looking for, is that interactive step-by-step experience. Now that's where it was. That was your recall.
Okay. Yep. See that sand burn his
I
foot?
did. I noticed it.
No.
So this is the third send, right? Now, did you say no right there? I couldn't hear.
Yeah.
Now, see, that's where you're confusing the term. That no needs to be when you whistle sit them out there.
Back.
Oh, little delay in the audio. That is golly Moses. So, where did he run on the third time?
He went to the wall.
No. Look at where I drew it, and where can you see? Is he stopped right now, like not spun around yet?
He stopped right at the log.
Okay, where we're looking at is I can't see him stop. I mean, he's not stopped yet. He's on the way. He's past the first wall, and in between the right hand wall and the right wall and the left wall, the line that he ran on your third line was right.
It's like a curveball.
It's right there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I mean, help y'all give us some feedback, because I know Jake's dealing with a little bit of video issues. But did y'all not see these three walls? You know, the far wall being the first send, the right hand wall being the second send, and the third wall being the one in between.
You know what, Stephen? I need you to explain this wall to me, because
I'm listening. Go ahead and tell me what your feedback is.
Because I mean, I see the wall, but explain what how the wall works and what it means. I mean, in a more technical sense, rather than just obvious.
And this is one of the things that Miss Elaine saying she's agreeing with what I said. So these are not obviously physical walls. These are what you call mental walls in the way that the dog is perceiving things. So when this is the point of this drill, is that, and it's not just this drill proper. It is the way that how dogs see whistle sits in life. You know, every time when you're running a blind and you hit a whistle, the dog says, "Okay, there's a wall. I'm not supposed to go. I have to change directions." In reference to this, he's telling me to do something different. So it acts like a mental wall that essentially what you're trying to do here is wall him in to the obstacle. So let me see. I think I got another one of these pulled up. Give me 1 second.
These are short walls that are parallel to the log. This isn't a trump wall, right?
That's correct. These are like, remember we talked about the little ready-made ready-made fences that you buy at Lowe's.
So these would be like a section of a picket fence.
Exactly. Okay. So
okay.
Let's see if I can get this one. Can I share? How do I share something? Wait a minute. I might have to open it on this. I'm trying to get file new. Yeah, I definitely don't want to lose this part. Okay, I can do this a different way. So we're going to look off to the side here. I'm going to make you a little sketch. So I do a drill with young dogs.
Okay.
Do that. Make this a line. I do a drill with young dogs called 3-step pattern blinds. The first time you run the drill, you try to pick a distance that you believe that the dog can achieve this within 5 to 7 whistles. So, for instance, let's say you get, how can I put something here? Best thing to do would be a line. So let's say the dog runs a line, you get a whistle set here, you get a whistle set here, you get a whistle set here, here, and then he goes to the line. So so when he runs the blind, it looks something like this. And remember, these are basic dogs. These are dogs that are just learning the concept. So what these whistle sets represent to the dog are little fences like what we're pointing to over here on your drill. They're mental barriers where they were stopped and told to change direction. So that would be step 1 of your 3-step pattern blind. On step 2, this is step 2, the objective is to run in a perfect 3-step pattern blind. You get 2 whistle sets, one on the left side of the line, one on the right side of the line. So based off what happened right here, your first whistle set is probably going to be somewhere in this proximity, because dogs are going to have a tendency to perpetuate success and do what they did before. So it's not going to be as wide as the first one. It'll be a little bit in. You get a left-hand side. So in a perfect scenario, you get 2 whistle sets, one on the left side of the line, one on the right side of the line. And based off of what happened on this diagram, you're probably going to miss left early and then cross the line and then go to the destination. So your second line is going to look, oops, back that up. Your second line is going to look something like, dadgum, to this whistle set, to this whistle set, to the destination. All right. So the first blind is about running a blind and not putting too many walls out there so the water's not muddy. That's why I always say try to do it in less than 5 to 7 whistles. The second blind is about establishing a corridor and letting the dog know what the standard of deviation off the line is. You may, if all your suction is to the left, you may end up doing 2 whistle sets on one side of the line and just having 2 walls there. Like I said, we're talking about an ideal situation here. But if and only if the third blind, if the dog does the work right, in theory, you have established by these whistle sets a little wall here and a little wall here. So your third blind, they're allowed to line the blind as long as they stay inside the corridor that they created on step 2.
Gotcha.
So this is the most basic dogs that are just learning how to run blinds. And you can see how these whistle sets start to affect them and start to create walls. So typically what happens on that third, assuming that you have that step 2 looks like this, your step 3 is going to look like this. They're going to run out the wall and go, that ain't right. That ain't right.
Okay.
And they run a tighter line inside the corridor. Does that make sense?
It does, and that's exactly what he did on that third line. And now I understand. That's exactly. I mean, he did exactly that. Yeah.
So the point to be made here is that this is how dogs see whistle sets in general, and when they're trying to give you productive behavior, they're saying, I got to do something different than what I did before. I got to go somewhere different than where I went. Now, an unschooled dog's just going to say, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. That's what makes you frustrated. That's what makes the dog frustrated. And y'all go to bed mad at one another. But I teach this at the very beginning of my transition seminars, and we will do this with dogs. And I can diagram the dog running in the field And based off what it did on the previous step, I can usually tell you what it's going to do the next time you send it out. And people think that I'm doing some kind of witchcraft, and I'm going, no, I'm just reading the dog and understanding how they see things. And that's my big objective here, is for you to understand more what you're looking at and how the dogs are seeing this. So,
Right.
did this give you some kind of clarification as to how the walls?
So the biggest benefit that happened on the second line was that he went wide early, and that established a front wall and a back wall, and then he went in between them on the third line.
Correct. Give me 1 second. I'm catching up on comments.
He saw both walls, and I did not.
So, and again, this is the stuff that jumps out when you come back and actually physically diagram what you're doing there. And hopefully this is going to help you see what he is seeing in doing these drills. Now,
Better now.
Can I erase this stuff now? You feel good on it?
Yep, I understand it way better. Like, I went from 0 to 50.
All right.
But at least
my wall back. Put my wall back. We can't be doing without our walls, because that's what. So the third sin, he split the difference and gave you a wall right there.
I backed the video up, and I backed it up to the line on the third sin. So on your screen, is he back at the line now?
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm seeing two of you.
Oh, really?
But I mean, it's just because of the way you paused it, I believe. But do you understand, before you hit play, do you understand how, especially a dog that's sensitive and trying, how these walls can start to blend together and turn into one big wall?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what he
now
hasn't done yet is jump left and try the left side yet, but he's hammering the right side pretty good.
He's literally building a Trump wall on the right side.
One little big session at a time.
That side, and then he gets to run between them.
So, all right, let's see what the next sin does.
Okay.
Is this the third sin?
This is the third one. I wanted to back it up because now that I kind of know what I'm looking at, I wanted to see it again.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to do all three, Jake.
You want to do it?
I mean, I think it wouldn't hurt a thing, and it would kind of give us a little connectivity to everything.
What was that? He was fishtailing. Is that just the rain?
It didn't show in here.
Oh, it didn't? Okay, I'm going to hide this because I know what it's going to do. I got to bring it back. And I think this is the first send.
You back on your echo a little bit. Say this was the good line, and then he veered off. So that was our first wall, the one closest to the log. If I had it my way, I'd have let you go a little bit farther, stop him right on the edge of the log, and build that wall on the very end of the log, not in front of it. Second sin. This is where he made up his mind on the line that he was going to go right from the jump. Because in his mind, he had to choose between left or right of that first wall. And he chose big time right. And when you stopped him earlier there, you were right to not let him go all the way to the end of the log again, because then you got two walls that are way out there. I mean, that was a greater deviation to the right, so a quicker stop was warranted.
Heel. Sit. Back.
There's a delay in the audio.
Yeah, not too bad, though. And you can see right there, he just totally center punched the three walls.
Yep, he did. So
the two walls, the right hand wall and the left hand wall, where you blew that whistle set again, was where you got wall 3 now.
That was okay. So now, that was the first. That was the end of the first video.
Okay.
No.
Okay, how'd he get way back there?
Well, that was where I stopped him.
Oh, okay. Okay, so what happened is that you stopped him You
cut it.
stopped him, and then he looped and kind of gave you and blew you off and ended up behind the log. But where you tried to stop him, we can agree the wall was right where it's supposed to be, right? Now,
Correct.
what happens when potentially you have that big loopy whistle sit? This can occur. I really don't know what happened. It's full of gray. I don't know when you have that bad whistle sit, it can be very disadvantageous, because the reason I colored it gray, he doesn't know exactly where the wall is. He doesn't know where the parameter is, and that can lead to confusion. So this is an attrition-based drill. This is not supposed to be pressure-oriented. However, sit means sit. And if he blows you off on that whistle sit, you are within your rights to correct him for that. But remember, when you put pressure on a whistle sit, it can make this gray wall a great big, back that up. It can make that what was gray, when you put pressure, it can make a bigger, stronger wall that could work for or against you. Think about if your normal wall width is the size of the closest wall to you, when you put collar pressure on a whistle sit, it makes the wall itself more formidable. Does that make sense?
Not
Shaking
really.
your head. Okay.
Yeah. Why?
So, do you see how this red wall is double in size?
Mm-hmm.
When you put collar pressure in conjunction with whistle sit pressure, whistle sit is a form of pressure, right? Even without a collar, it is a form of pressure. It's saying change your behavior. When you put collar pressure on it, it magnifies the pressure, therefore magnifies the size of the wall.
And so that would, I mean, what I'm trying to, you want smaller walls rather than bigger walls?
Yes, at the beginning, absolutely. I don't want to. I want the dog to feel like all options are available. Not.
So you want it to be like, so let's call these landmines.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So you want them to be landmines. So he thinks there's he's building lanes through there, but eventually he's like, man, this ain't no lane. I gotta go left. Because no matter what.
When you say the term landmine, what could be the misnomer there is that if you step on it, you get blown up. You want it to be a small wall so that the dog's not concerned, worried, paranoid about they can't go back near it.
Okay.
So when I say that when you put collar pressure and it makes the wall bigger, they're going to be more leery of that place that they felt collar pressure, and they're not going to want to go back that way nearly as readily. That's why you stay off of collar pressure in this drill, because you don't want to accidentally, some folks call them hot spots. You don't want to create a dynamic in which he's unwilling to go back near the wall that you built. The perfect example being your first send, you got a wall here. Your second send, you got a wall here. Your third send, he was willing to go here. He wasn't afraid of that. If you put a lot of pressure around it, it takes this option out, because this wall's twice the size, this wall's twice the size, and he feels like there is no option to even go there.
Gotcha. So you're building hot spots, not an underground electric fence.
I like my fence way better. You're thinking of it in the sense of electric spots, where I'm saying this is a mental wall. This is a mental fence that we're saying, don't go here, try something different. Don't go here, try something different. It will continue to show itself as we go through this, I believe. But the big thing to know here is that when that whistle sit and recall, if a dog's truly trying, they're going to say, okay, that spot wasn't right. I need to try a different spot.
Well, now it's not playing. There we go. Is it playing on your end? Okay.
Miss Gloria said, if your dog's two-sided, do you stick with running him off just one side? If I'm picking a fight here, I say picking a fight. If you switch sides, then it can make it more confusing sometimes. I try to pick with the side I start on. because I want.
No,
Okay.
no, no, no.
Okay, hit your pause right there.
Okay.
Now, to answer Miss Gloria's question, I like to stay on the side that I started on because switching sides can add confusion. I don't want to put too much variables in this. And if you can get it off the one side and not off the other, you may be addressing the dog's weaker side. You may be dealing with some other sideline issues. Switching sides can be a bailout that could either make things too easy or not address the problem that you were actually starting to deal with, which was, the poor line off one side or another. Okay, so where he ended up on this one, you hit the whistle. Actually, technically, I could make the argument that he took this was like send one, where he ran at the log and actually ran at the log even better and then deviated at the end, which is my point of, if you had built that wall on the very end of the log, it would have been more black and white to him. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So let's just looking on the other. Say that
he
again.
ran past whistle number one, and then
right.
So he cut,
exactly right.
cut a trail between whistle number one and the end of the log because he felt like that was a lane he could go through.
Yes.
Okay, I'm starting to get it now.
Yes, exactly. So had you built it, saying that the left side of the log was your first whistle sit, had you put your first wall there,
Mm-hmm.
then, if this wall was sitting over here and wasn't interfering, then he's either got to jump the log, run through the invisible barrier, or go way left. That's the difference.
I know y'all see this every day, and the clarification that just finally clicked with me, I'm like, dude, it's amazing that these dogs see it this way, that they remember where these walls are and they actually go between these walls. I mean, that blows my mind. And you guys are probably going, oh, we see this every day or whatever, but that blows my mind that these dogs have the intellect to remember that and to pick these lanes out. I mean, I can't.
And see, what you're calling intellect really boils down to basic survival. In the wild, okay, I did this behavior and that did not get me what I'm looking for. I'm lucky I lived through it. I'm not going to do that again. Right?
Yeah.
This goes back to basic survival instinct.
Primitive instincts.
Say that again. You broke up.
Primitive instincts.
Primitive instincts, exactly. So we're helping. This drill is obviously we're calling it. Okay, we're establishing greater communication. We're teaching dogs how to see this, blah blah blah. But at the same time, we're also, if you can understand how the dog sees it, it makes it 100 times easier for you to teach the concept. And this is how I believe dogs see these things. And what happens when you have habitual repeat offenses and the same thing happens over and over again, either the wall becomes no longer effective or the dog doesn't see the way out. And they just feel like, okay, I got to get through this danger area, so I'm just going to do it faster and faster and faster. And that's what we're not looking for here. And through the first 4 sins, we can say that Tanner has not done the same behavior. He hasn't done the right behavior yet, but he hasn't done the same line
twice.
Yes. He ran the same. The only thing you can say is he ran the correct line the first and the 4th time and then deviated at the log at 2 different spots.
I get that 100%.
Now, Mr. Andy said after the 2nd run, should you line him further to the left to get him closer to the original desired line so he better understands where you want him to go? I'm go ahead, Jake.
I thought about that, but I thought I'm supposed to run him from the same spot because I don't want to influence him differently than the first 3 tries. So I felt like it's important to send him from the same line each time. I don't know if that's right.
Well,
but that's what
and Mr. Andy's not saying change the line. He's asking if you should change the alignment.
I see.
And,
So I
and both those answers, in my opinion, are no. Because how do you teach a dog to run straight? By pointing it crooked.
Mhm.
So if anything, as I'm starting to build these walls on the right, if I miss anywhere, it's usually to the right, because I have walls built that I can bounce him off of. If I point him farther left, he still has all that. He has all this real estate over here to miss in his mind. So if you point him left, he's going to go over here. But right, you're starting to get some pretty good walls built up to take away these avenues. Does that make sense?
Oh, I want to go out and do it right now because it just makes so much more sense to me now. Of course, I did this with minimal amount of input from you, which is what our purpose is, and it's so eye-opening and enlightening now that I understand what he sees. It makes it better. It makes it easier for me to go out. Okay, so now we're building a wall. The whole thing makes more sense.
Okay, I'm gonna try to document. Oh shucks, back that up. Yeah. So that last sin. Oh, don't do that, Stephen. Don't do that. Build our third wall right there again. Undo that. Go back to red. Put my wall back in. I didn't like that one either. A little bit more to the left. There we go. Got my third wall. Now go back to yellow. That fourth sin, I'm trying to document that, and it was kind of like a very, very small
gap. It's like a cracked door.
Exactly, because he's got this wall here already, and you could say that, well, there's the wall farther behind him, and I wouldn't argue with that. But let's just for teaching purposes say, okay, we put another small one where he felt like he could dip right. All right, let's get another sin and see what happens.
Like a soccer drill, and they're running through cones. So I moved up this time about 5 yards. I don't know what good that did, but I felt like move up a little.
What moving up does is make the lane more clear. Now that could blow them left. A lot of times I don't move up until I build a wall on my left as well. But that's moving up is always simplification. That's not a bad thing. But what it pushes his line farther essentially against these walls. So it makes this this second wall that you had bigger to him. Does that make sense?
It's more immediate.
Yes, it's proximity wise.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. So he went between 1 and 3.
Okay, so you're saying, I'm checking right here. Go back to here. So he went between 1 and 3. So he
went between the yellow. Yeah, that one and that one.
I got to change my thing. Like that. Is that correct?
Correct. Is that everybody say yes and agree with me? That's what I saw. I think that's what happened.
And I'm not saying it's impossible that he didn't run through some of these other walls. That's not to say that that's not something that's impossible, an impossible concept. We're just pointing out again trying to show y'all how I believe Tanner's seeing this. Now, you've got a pretty much solid wall built from, you know, everything but your second sin is pretty much connected now, all the way to the log. And you see how it's like a funnel, a diagonal line that's pointing them in?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right. If he would either jump this log or go way left here, that would be like super duper. Let's see what he does. Because I truly don't remember.
I think he goes left.
No. Here. Sit. No. Here. Sit.
Still a little bit of a delay. I heard you get back. See, he hadn't even left yet on our line.
Oh.
No.
Whoa! There you go. That was a left-hand turn.
For sure.
All right, so
I'm gonna hide this and bring
that. If he went left, you stopped him about the log. The only potential problem there is that loopy whistle sit could have potentially covered up a little bit of your log. So, you know, we want to whistle sit like that. What may have happened right there, since it was loopy, is sometimes this happens. And you build a bigger wall or a farther right wall than you expect. And sometimes we accidentally build some walls that end up making the log, in their mind, look like that.
Oh, I see.
So if you don't get those whistle sits outside the log, before long, this isn't an option. It's actually a man-made keyhole. And he's going, that is way too small for me to run through, especially not run through and jump a log. So it turns into a great big wall right here all across the board. He's like, I have no idea where I can go.
I got you.
This is where the whistle sits can get you.
I might step in. I might hit one of those walls. There's too close. It just looks like one wall to him. I understand that now. So basically, you're building a linear wall parallel to the log in that manner, just like you were building the right-hand side wall where he kept closing those gaps, and now the gaps down by the log parallel to it.
Is that pretty accurate on our left-hand wall?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Now, one thing, this is normally when it's a really good idea to move up, because he's missed right, then he's missed left. So you have a keyhole made, and when you move up that little bit, it makes that keyhole look way bigger. Just like it makes the walls look bigger, it also makes this gap look way bigger.
I got you.
And that's when you can really, you know, clarify if you're struggling at all and they've been missing one way and then they miss the other. Especially if you build the walls at the end of the log, you can step up and just, it looks like the heavens part and the angels start singing and everybody, you know, sings hallelujah. Exactly.
He gets a third place trophy.
Still delayed. He just left. Now look how far right he went.
No.
Mm-hmm.
See, that was in his mind. He was just avoiding all the walls. So where he's sitting is
exactly what you thought he was going to do, because I built that wall parallel to the log too tight.
Exactly, because it may have covered up some of the log, and that keyhole looked a little tight. And when he left out, did just back that up. I want to do it when he left, he's like, I can't do any of this, and just went hard right and just avoid all the walls.
Right.
All right. So that was a no-go. You brought him back.
But I got to see where he is here. Dadgummit. Now I'm totally lost on where I was. Let's try this one.
Here. Sit. Here.
That would be a heel.
Sit.
not a here, because heel means behind.
I actually thought that when I did that.
Oh, snap. Oh, snap. And we jumped the log.
Good. 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 Good boy. Good boy.
And look how he bounced off those walls and all. where you look at that at your video screen, then you look at the diagram screen and you go, wait a minute. He just did exactly what he felt like the option to do was.
Okay, so I don't know if this was right or not, but I moved back to my original line.
That's fine. I mean, you got success, and if you want to challenge him, you see how he wants to go right? Every time he wants to go right, and then he hits those walls that are pre-made, and then he runs around it on the way back. Just to stick it to you.
So now he went around. This is where I got confused because he went around the log on the return, and I didn't stop him in time, but I handled him. So, and I honestly didn't know if I did this the right way or
when
not.
When they do that, I normally handle them back. And the mistake people make right here is they worry about trying to jump the log. You just get him back there. I always rotate them toward the log. If they run around it, I don't make a huge deal. I'm just trying to fix the return here, not the way that they run back to get where they violated.
Wow. My son's watching this on YouTube right now on the big screen. Can't see it.
See, once you see him do it right, this again is a natural instinct. He's going, okay, I found success. I'm going to perpetuate it. And it makes you feel good. It makes him, it honestly probably makes you feel more good than him because he's figured out the combination now. So what you want to do at this point is add that element in, associate it in different places, add that element into running a blind itself. It's not a bad idea to come back and revisit this exact spot over and over and over again until you can line it from wherever you're looking for. You know, just because you get this right the first time does not mean that you can come back on the far side of those ruts that you were standing in and stay back and he's going to jump that log again. Mm-hmm. But do it until you can get it consistently. I'm going
to build like all these setups that we build at Prairie Rock. I'm going to, from this point forward, especially when September 1st gets here, I'm going to be spending a lot more time out there. And I'm just going to build these little drills in different areas at Prairie Rock. And I'm just going to leave them and just keep coming, you know.
Yes, absolutely. We call those pattern fields. One thing to go back up that I'd like to commend, Hockey Dad says he's a British Lab guy, and he says he can't say thank you enough. Well, I can't say thank you enough to you for being open enough to look at this. You know, obviously this is a little different approach than what a lot of the British guys take, and being open-minded enough to look at it from this side of the pond's view. I guarantee you, Jake, a lot of the folks that are sitting there watching this tonight are going, I have never, ever, ever seen this kind of approach diagrammed as to how whistle sets affect dogs and the way that they perceive this. But one thing to note here, looking at this drill, you could say either he had a lot more suction to the right, or maybe Tanner has a affinity for missing right. Because you see how many times he tried right and he only tried left once. So that could be a specific to this drill instance, or that could be the sign of a pattern that Tanner has a tendency to miss right.
There's probably validity to that more than not, because if you go back to the last NoNo drill we did, you know, where the log was in the shade, he missed right 3 times in a row there before he went left too. So that's probably more accurate than not.
Well, I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
You ate
So this is really, I mean, I know y'all think that me and Jake may sit off camera and figure this out. This was real-time diagramming, guys. This was 100% watching the
Never even
together. This was why I was so upset last week when I couldn't show y'all. I couldn't point to it with my cursor what we're looking for here and how things could be different. Guys, I've got some other illustrations that I wanted to point to, some of my setups. So if there's any more questions on this particular video, that was the end of it, right, Jake?
end of it. Yes.
Okay, so if there's any other specific questions on this specific setup, I really want to hear them now because we're going to jump to a couple other things. Can you or would you want to erase walls, move up, and simplify? Moving up and simplifying is always good for a confused dog. A younger dog on this drill, 100%. Matter of fact, I would have started closer on a younger dog. And a lot of times if I'm trying to set dogs up for success here, I will sit them at the line. I will walk across the obstacle that I am trying to get them to attack, call them to me over the obstacle, leave them sitting again, and then walk back to where I'm going to send them from, call them back to me again so that I call them across the object coming and going, and then immediately resend them across. Jake, you saw how we did this on our down the shore water blind approach as well. This stuff has so many different ramifications. Again, what we're talking about here is not just a drill. We're talking about teaching dogs how to have a productive learning attitude that makes training fun. This is what I remind my clients so much when they get confused dealing with something and they'll get upset. And I'm like, remember, this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be your hobby. So don't lose your temper. Get right with it and understand what's going on.
I would tell you too that add to this that when we got back home into our neighborhood training ponds, the next morning we went to the rectangle pond and ran an opposite down the shore blind, which is about 185 yards, I believe. And he too whistled it. And the second whistle was inside towards the suction and he lined it. And that was about, I backed up. So we had a longer entry. And he did. I wish I would have filmed it, and I didn't. I went out to train, and we were just having kind of some fun. But he did. We're getting it. I really enjoy this, and I really appreciate everyone's input and all the participation and all of your wisdom and input, Stephen. I'm like we said this at the very beginning. I'm getting so much more out of this than you are because I'm learning these things that I don't know about, and it's so eye-opening because it helps me understand the psychology of what my dog is thinking. I don't know what every dog's thinking, but I'm starting to learn what my dog is thinking, and the reward is the relationship that I have with my dog. And it's just, it's amazing.
All right. I'm almost there.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to pull up another picture of an advanced version of one of my NoNo drills. And I've got it. And I need to share this to you.
Mr. Bennett Fuller said, I thought the whole drill was going over the log. And the drill is so much more than that. It's great learning, and I couldn't agree with you more.
Now, let's see. I'm learning this on my end. Okay, here we go. So, you got this now, Jake?
Let me see. Yep. One. There you go.
Here is another example of one of my tune-up. This was a lamb blind that we ran last week. And this was, anybody that's trained at my place knows where we're at. This is one of my NoNo Drill poles. Can you see the telephone pole on the ground?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we've changed our line to make this more challenging. My blind location would be right. Make that bigger.
How far behind would your blind be planted?
In this case, give me 1 second. Let me get this thing.
See, I'm starting to see SRS stuff come out now.
The blind was right here.
Are you watching us, Walker?
Yeah.
Good for you.
I don't like that. How can I get this thing right? Should be filling in. Okay, so there's your blind. It was so it's this is an illusion here. To these trees was probably 50 yards.
Mm-hmm.
To the pole, the dog actually goes out of sight. This is going down a hill. The dog actually goes out of sight for a second and then comes back to the poles, probably another 60 yards, and over the poles, probably another 60 yards, maybe more. So that would put you at about, what, 170, 180 yard blind. Call it 200 to be simple. So the dog had two concepts that we were dealing with. One was the trees. So I wanted them to go through this keyhole. So when I stopped them on this drill, fill this thing up, fill solid color. There we go. So, let's say I said back and the dog came and stopped and tried to go or past the trees. I waited till they got even with the trees, and I built I don't even like that one. Back it up just a little bit more. I tried to build a wall like this, and then I tried to build a wall, assuming that they did something different and went to the other side.
So I got a question for you. Those two trees, because it's such a keyhole, obvious keyhole, when you build a wall on the right, you build a wall on the left, does that make it more visibly obvious for the dog because those two trees are there?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to build those walls touching those trees to start with. And that doesn't mean that the dog's going to immediately run through, because dogs are like horses. To go through a tight space like that is not natural, because something could be behind those trees that could get them. If you've ever dealt with horses, they don't like tight spaces like that, and that's exactly why, because they see ghosts. They know what that something's there, and it's all about survival, right? So that's the same.
Looked off a horse were near big boulders.
Yeah, so same thing, right? Y'all have boulders, we have trees, but the same concept applies here. So you're putting a wall on each side of the tree to try to make the keyhole more evident. That doesn't mean that the dog's immediately going to run through it, but if they go wide left, wide right, we can build another wall and keep building these funnels. If I see them take off, if they're going to run around, they're going to deviate earlier. So that's when I can start building these walls.
Hey, Daddy.
Closer.
Should I go train Tanner at the pond?
We'll see.
and try to frame that keyhole. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And if the dog keeps habitually doing it wrong, then I can move up inside those walls and make it a lot easier for them to understand. I can also, like I said, move up and simplify whenever I need to. But the objective here, I wanted to hit the trees on the initial line. And if the dog, if I cast the dog, it was only after multiple unsuccessful attempts. Most of my dogs, once they made the keyhole, they carried the rest of it pretty good, because that pole is a pattern blind to them. But the next thing that an unschooled dog or a dog unfamiliar with this blind would have to deal with is, once they get through the trees, then they've got to negotiate the pole. This is a classic drill for me to deal with. Say that again.
So I got a question. So let's go back to Tanner's drill. So I planted those blinds, right on the back side of that log, maybe 5 or 6 yards or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so if let's say the tall grass behind that log were short, and I had, another 100 yards behind that log to plant blinds further and further back. When he jumps the log, he's got his walls built. He's running through the keyhole. He jumped the log, and then he's gonna break down 5 or 6 yards behind the logs the first time he goes. Do I stop him and handle him back?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, he's operating based off an expectation, right? He's doing his behavior is based off of what he's been taught to expect. So you have to change that expectation, which is run your hiney on. Let's get on out.
On the blind.
Say that again.
Keep going till you find a blind.
Exactly. Keep going until you find your destination.
Okay.
So is that a pretty good illustration for you?
Dude, I feel like a different man.
All right, I got another one coming for you. Hang tight. Get rid of that.
You come say hi? Come here. This is my number one buddy right here.
Y'all just got back from Prairie Rock, didn't you?
Yesterday for Tanner.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
They're buds.
Let's get this to you. All right, can you
Miss
see that?
Elaine.
Daddy, can I use it?
Oh, yes. See, now, Miss Elaine obviously knows how we operate around here because she said, get Kendra to change. Yeah, because she knows who the technologically savvy person is in this relationship. Can you, is my other one up now?
It is.
Okay.
In 3, 2, 1, bingo.
All right. So y'all are going, all right, that's a really pretty fish house. What does that have to do with NoNo drills? This was an example of a double blind that I ran last week as well. So one that we had slightly varying lines. So this is a double blind. This is also, by the way, Jake, this is also a perfect example of a variation of a tune-up drill. I need to change that color. Let's make that red. So one blind looked like this. That was blind 2. The first blind looked like this. So
what were the rules on that first blind?
So the first blind, that's actually out the corner of the pond. That is the farthest swim that you could take. Obviously, I'd like to see them go through the keyhole. That was created by the trees. But what, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this was blind number 1. So where did the dog struggle? Where was the big contention point here?
Which one was one by the tree?
The one that's going not to the telephone pole, the one that's pointing to the left, not pointing to the right.
I would have guessed he would have wanted to go left of that right tree through the big gap.
Go left of the right tree.
So he would have
right here?
No, he would have gone towards more in the center lane between those two trees.
Well, and that's not a problem here. That is not the issue that was created. Someone else, I'm sure, is going to identify where this problem is. That's why I'm waiting on some feedback.
You want to cross the bridge?
On the right, on running this left-hand blind, where did the dogs want to go that were trying to do the right thing? And not everybody speaking at once here. I'm not saying another thing until somebody guesses or gives me some positive feedback. And I know there's a little bit of a delay. That's why I'm waiting on them. There we go. There we go. He would want to get in the water. Exactly. Where most of my dogs went at the beginning looked a lot like, don't you do that? Looked a lot like this. I said back and they said to the water. Oh, that is horribly small. Get this back in here. That's as big as I got. Surely not. Surely not. So we said back and they continued to veer toward the water. So when they did that, I would wait till they went that way. I would stop. I would tell the dog, no, no. Red, fill with red. And then I would build a wall right here. And I would bring him back and we'd start again. And a lot of them would run farther right. And they would keep saying the but. Their thought was, I've got to get to water. And this is the first piece of water. So this is a setup. And I would have them over and over and over again because they're saying, you taught us to get in the water. We're supposed to be in the water. Had I run, believe it or not, had I run blind 2 first, they'd have been more comfortable to run blind 1 because they'd have already gotten the water and said, okay, I've been there. Now I can look somewhere else. But running blind 1 first, running the left hand blind first, caused the dogs to really say, I'm not, no, that's a setup because you're asking me to run 60 yards, 80 yards farther to get in the water than getting in this first piece. So most of my dogs wanted to go that way, and I had to continually build this wall, no here, and ask for a different response. So this is, again, how NoNo and using that systematic approach to teaching NoNo drills helps teach dogs how to modify their behavior when they're in a confusing situation. Go to the water. So this is another illustration of how, when you don't get that perfect line and you're looking for a better initial line, that NoNo teaching concept that you're putting in place helps the dog, understand, okay, I got to go somewhere different. I got to do something better. I got to pick somewhere other than where I've been before. Mm-hmm. But it's many times, I promise you, if you went back and went through all our sessions and you heard me talk about how many times I referenced building walls and the fact that hit you so big tonight.
Now I know what you mean.
I mean, and when I keep saying things and you say, hey, don't be afraid to stop me and say, hey, I need to understand this more fully. But this is a perfect example of how I use no-nos on a daily basis when I'm getting dogs to take complex lines that I'm looking for. Perfection is not always running the perfect line. It is just simply trying to do something other than what you did before. Give me something different. Give me something of merit to say that you're trying a different line, because a lot of times when a dog's in a confused situation, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for something. Give me some indication that you're trying to do something differently, that you're trying a different approach, because that's all I really want out of this, is for you to give me some other behavior than what you were naturally doing to start with. It shows me that you're working with me, that you're communicating with me, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to try a different approach. That is the beauty behind NoNo drills.
10-4. What's up running late tonight?
Oh, Steve, you missed some light bulbs going off. You might as well go back and hit play and start from the beginning.
You just slid in on home plate and ain't nobody on the field.
So, guys, ask your questions now, because we're going to There's no need to jump into another subject. As Jake mentioned, next week we're going to talk with Dr. Bradshaw, and I promise you what you think would be a half a session. I'm pretty confident we'll probably end up discussing in depth a lot of different concepts. You know, emergency vet care is something that's always interesting to me, because there are times that we've changed. You know, there are times that triage work makes a big difference. You know, you get something handled before you get them to the vet. You know, it could be a life-saving experience at that very point. So I'm super excited to hear what Dr. Bradshaw's got to say, what he sees a lot of, what he, you know, the insight he can give us to take better care of our dogs.
I'm not going to mention the trainer's name, but a trainer friend of mine, last week, I talked to them a few days ago, and they lost a dog on the trailer, overheated, and 2 others were almost unconscious, and they were able to save the 2 dogs, but 1 dog passed, and they were parked in the shade. They had done the same thing many times over, and still don't realize what happened. But you know, that's something I definitely want to talk about in the heat of the summer, and how serious that really is. I mean, I found myself running errands I like to take Tanner wherever I go. I just feel better with him in the back of my truck in his Gunner kennel. And so I take him a lot of places. But, you know, today it got up to 101 here in Fort Collins. And I literally just decided, because of what happened to my friend a couple of weeks ago, I came home and brought him home and put him in my basement where he normally stays in the hot weather, because I was concerned about what could happen had I walked into Walmart and spent too much time in there and come out and my dog would have been overheated. You know, it's everyone here knows even better way better than I do about how serious this is, but it's definitely something serious, and we're going to talk about that next week.
And the other thing in today's climate you got to be super careful about is, you know, the care of your animals is paramount. Obviously, we would never intentionally endanger these animals with the time, effort, money that we've got in them. But if your dog is even to be perceived to be in stress, and someone else walking through the Walmart parking lot has a duck and calls the authorities, you're going to be there to answer to that. A friend of mine had to go to court over, he had worked his dog in water work. The dog was still wet from being in the water, and he had his dog in a Ford Escape, and went to Walmart or somewhere like that, had the back hatch open and the windows down. And someone called the authorities and told them that the dog was overheated and it was sweating down and it was soaked because of sweat. Well, that's great, but dogs don't sweat. And he had to explain to the authorities that, you know, the dog is wet because it just got out of the water. You know, it's crazy talk, and you think it couldn't happen to you, but I promise you, I mean, we were at a steakhouse the other when I went to Nebraska and Minnesota to run the SRS. We went to a really nice steakhouse in Nebraska, and we were in a private room with our party, and the manager came in and said, I just wanted to let you know, one of the patrons just came in and said that they had called the authorities because of the dog truck that was out, and it was super hot. Don't get me wrong, but my dogs were super cared for. They were super cool. They were in a vehicle that was designed to keep them that way. And to her credit, the manager came in and said, I just want to let you know what's happening. And I assured her that I would love to speak to the authorities when they got there and that there would be no issues. And either it was a lie and they had not called anybody, or the authorities rode through and saw the truck and realized that this was a professional vehicle that the dogs were cared for, or they never came. But long story short, I mean, I'm in there enjoying my evening and minding my own business, and I'm getting tapped on the shoulder and said, "Hey, well, look out, this could be happening." And I've got to answer questions on things that I didn't, it's my property. It's my responsibility. I don't tell you how to do your stuff. You shouldn't tell me how to do mine. But people lose their nuts, whenever when I hear them reference the term, "Oh, it's a fur baby," I know I'm already dealing with a little bit of crazy there.
I guarantee my town, I live in a town that the chances of that happening to me are extremely high because of the town and the culture that I live in here in Fort Collins, Colorado. As you guys can imagine, Boulder, Colorado is even worse. I'm not saying worse as in, bad. I'm just saying there are more people that would call the authorities on you and take the law into their own hands in a misunderstood situation based on their judgment versus what's truly right or wrong. And so, yeah, that was, again, I'm more concerned about my dog than I am some crazy, calling the cops on me or whatever, but I don't want to be in either situation. So I literally brought Tanner home today, dropped him off, texted Laura to see if she would put Tanner in the basement, and she did. And then I went on about my business. I went 20 miles out of my way, but I did that for his own safety.
I mean, and I'm not trying to defer that decision. I'm just pointing out it's crazy to me that some people feel like you have to account to them that the precautions that you take to take care of your animals. But again, that's something that when you have a situation like that, you got to be ready to make sure you got all your I's dotted and all your T's crossed, and you are aware of the laws and the local ordinances so that you can diffuse that situation super quick.
Right. There's questions here. Steve Kelly said, when teaching these new blind concepts keyhole example, you ever use buckets to help with confidence at the beginning?
And what Steve's talking about is identifying the piles with a white bucket to establish confidence. I'm not a big buckets guy, Steve. I mean, I think there's more than one way to skin a cat. If that works for you, by all means, do it. I don't like teaching dogs to learn to run at white objects because I think that hurts them later in life. I usually teach in most of my blind running concepts when there's a white object in the field, and normally that white object is a bird boy with a white coat on. I'm teaching them to run a relationship to that white object, not run straight at it. That's just my opinion. But if that works for you, by all means, do it. Miss Gloria asked, and this was on the picture doing the water blinds, and she asked, you changed your line to break down the walls on blind 1 or to be doing blinds with crossing lines? It would definitely be crossing the lines. And I was also changing lines to make the picture that I was looking for more clear. I wanted one to swim out the corner of the pond. I wanted the other one to not just cross the preceding line, but also be tighter down the shore on blind number 2. That's why I was changing my lines there. But that's a really good question. Mr. Andy says, how many times would you let the dog attempt the wrong line before realizing you need to move up and simplify? That is definitely a very gray area. That is, you got, it depends on the level of the dog. It depends on the confidence level. If you see confidence breaking down, if you see momentum breaking down, then you need to move up and simplify. If it's a young dog, you obviously don't want to have 20 no heres in the same direction. But for a dog like Tanner, him making some wrong moves is a good thing. Not only for him to learn how to do the right thing, but for that transfer of authority to go over to Jake and him to realize that Jake is actually setting him up for success. Again, can't harp on this enough. Tanner's done all this stuff way more than Jake has. So they're learning these things together, but Jake's experiencing, Tanner's done a lot of this stuff, and he's not necessarily teaching him something new. He's just reinforcing the precepts that were laid in place. And Tanner's having to, just like associating no drills to jumping different objects, Tanner's having to associate the transfer of authority to Jake, and that Jake's not just dad. Jake actually knows how to call him on his bad behavior. So this is all really good quality stuff, and I commend that. Your third attempt at no drills, everything that the first two weren't, the third definitely was, as far as teaching opportunities and showing, like I said, it always wows me when we're diagramming this stuff and I see that what I can't see on my phone. I see the behaviors that the dog is manifesting, and I'm drawing it out and realizing that those things that I preach, the dog's actually following through on that. As in real time, we're watching it actually happen. It's just like what we do when we do a lot of our different seminars. So it was really cool stuff tonight. I was super stoked. That video was great. You're still
Randy,
go ahead.
I was going to say the reason I moved up is because he went to the same spot 2 times in a row, and I don't know if it was right or not, but I moved up because I felt like I needed to simplify a little more because he did the same thing twice.
And a good way to say that is that at any point you feel like the dog is not trying something new, that the dog is just falling into a rut of, okay, I'm just going to do this bad behavior until something that changes. Whenever you're realizing that the dog's not actively problem solving, you definitely need to move up and simplify. This was really
Is that
good stuff, Jake. I've said what I needed to say as far as I want to make sure we've got everybody's questions answered, but I'm really, I can't believe how good that diagram worked out and what he was doing and how he was.
Again, I'll be in Michigan up on Lake St. Clair in my hotel room, but as soon as I get there tomorrow, I'm going to get my laptop out and I'm going to get all that ironed out so we have the right program so that we can continue to do this without fail. And hopefully, I guess our show wouldn't be a show without some sort of technical issue at the very beginning.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know it's a challenge to do so many different concepts, but it is highly rewarding that we can look at this video and be able to diagram it at the same time. It's only getting better, in my opinion. And thank you so much for supporting it.
Yeah, had you not drawn those red walls on the first diagram, I honestly can say that I don't think I would have understood it like I do. I'm not saying I fully understand it, but I definitely understand the concept of building the wall like 100% better than I did when we first when we first came on tonight. And as I look back on it, actually the reality was I didn't understand it at all. And I understand it. I understand the wall building concept now. That was freaking awesome. Thank you so much.
And remember, the proximity that you build that wall, it can work for you or against you. But if you stop them 2 steps in front of you and accidentally build a wall right in front of you, that's a good time to move up and get past that wall. So understand those walls can be your friend. They can also be your enemy. If you don't use them the right way, or you cloud up the water and he doesn't realize where the walls proper are, that's definitely time to move up and simplify and make things black and white again.
And just to reiterate this, and I know this is a simple question, but you want to build your walls. You want to build your wall from your log back.
Correct.
Always. That's your goal. When you step up to the line for the first time, that's your goal.
And so whatever my obstacle is, I usually try to get the dogs even with the obstacle before I stop and build a wall the first time, so that I'm not building walls too close too soon. Mm-hmm. And I can build from that obstacle back and essentially build a funnel toward it.
So if you were to go back to Tanner's log, if you built the first wall, say 20 yards or 30 yards to the right of the log, you'd have let him go to get even with the log. All of a sudden there's a wall there. The next line he runs is going to be somewhere between that wall and the log, right?
In theory, correct. in theory.
Okay.
It gives him a lot more room to breathe and get closer to the log. And remember, if he's 30 yards away from the log, that's an extreme case. But at least build your wall at the end of the log, not 10 yards before it.
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant. Even
Yes.
from a latitude perspective, even with the log.
Yep.
I
Exactly.
get that. Well, Stephen, once again, thank you. Thanks to everyone that participated tonight. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate the time. All these years I pictured the walls as parallel.
Hey, I mean, that's one of my longest standing clients. I must suck at teaching. That's good stuff.
That's really good. All right. Well, I guess we'll see you guys next week right here on the Retriever Connection with Stephen Durrance and Jake Latondras. Till then, you guys be safe, stay cool, and good luck with your dogs.
Super. Thanks, guys.